How do you know if you found your purpose? Well, in today's episode of the Meaningful Revolution podcast, we interview Carly Pepin, a human behavior expert, about what goes into finding and living into your authentic life, your meaningful revolution, your purpose. And it's a great interview. We talk about clarity. We talk about the stories we tell ourselves. We talk about a ton of different topics related to purpose and getting clear and having mindsets that support and serve you. So again, I'm Shawn Buttner, the host of the Meaningful Revolution podcast. I'm really excited for this discussion we're going to have with Carly here. She's amazing. So let's jump into it. Hey everyone, welcome to the Meaningful Revolution podcast. I'm here with our guest, Carly Pepin. And Carly, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm really great. Thank you for having me, Shawn.
Today we're talking about human behavior, and I'd love to know, how did you get interested in studying human behavior and becoming a human behavior expert?
Yeah, so it definitely stemmed from my own personal challenges. I had a lot of things that I was struggling through when I was growing up. I was frustrated with some situations that had occurred, perceived traumas that we have, and those really had an impact on me. And then just a lot of other things as well. I was doing quite well within business and actually doing quite well within the industry that I was working in. So that was inspiring. And getting the house, getting the car, and all that fun stuff. And I just still wasn't feeling really satisfied. I
Mm.
wasn't satisfied with myself, how I looked. I wasn't satisfied with relationships. That was a big deal for me. And I just remember thinking that it was the city I lived in, which was Los Angeles. A lot of people probably will relate. A lot of people blame LA, but not LA. I learned that one. Uh, so I moved to another country. I moved to Australia for a year, and when I
Oh,
got
wow.
there, it immediately became apparent. Immediately, because I was all by myself. I didn't have the friends. I didn't have family. No distractions, right? And in a
Mm-hmm.
sense, that was it. I was like, I feel worse. Like I'm in this gorgeous country, opportunity of a lifetime, and I actually feel worse than I've ever felt before. And that's when I realized everything comes from the inside, right? And it was how I was perceiving things in the world and my own personal challenges. So it was great because it gave me a great level of responsibility. And that's when I found my first coach. So I found my
Mm-hmm.
first coach, and she started teaching me about human behavior principles, understanding our purpose, our values, what is important to us. And that's actually what helped me start to transform through anxiety, the depression that I was having, and some eating disorder challenges that I was having as well, was actually just getting
Mm-hmm.
more on track with my life purpose and what that looked like. So because I was getting such phenomenal results with such a short period amount of time, I was like, I want to teach this. So that's
Oh,
when it
right on.
really started. And ever since then, it's just spiraled and carried on and continued.
Right on. Yeah, I've found as a coach myself, so many people have that moment of awareness of, oh, like if you keep dating the wrong person, there's one common denominator. Oh, it's me. Or why, like you said, like I felt the same way in a different situation and environment. And that's the kind of like call to action or call to adventure to be like, okay, time to decide to do something different. So I just want to cheer you on for that. That's amazing. So I guess really quick for the audience, how would you define human behavior? Like, is it psychology? Is it, that's maybe a little bit more of an abstract term? And I think everyone might have an idea of what it is, but could we get maybe some clarity around that?
For sure. So it's actually what I love about it for me in how I view it is the philosophical principles put into a concrete form,
Mm.
right? So we listen to someone like a Carl Jung, we have an Aristotle, those individuals in the world who have created some really inspiring things that make us think about life and
Mm-hmm.
why things happen and what causes things to happen the way that they're causing, like even Ralph Waldo Emerson, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
his writing does the same. So what I love about modern day is that there's ways to put all this stuff into practical application in a way that it can be life transformative. So we all are governed, our own self, we're governed by a certain set of principles and values, priorities that we live by. And I'm not talking about being honest. If I push your life purpose, you're going to become the biggest liar on the face of the planet. Make sure that I don't take away your reason for existence, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I push you and try to take away that life purpose, you are going to take me down. and
Uh-huh.
rightfully
Yeah.
so,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
challenging something that's important. So we all have both sides, but what is it that drives us to engage in one side or the other is our unique set of priorities, the priorities that we live by, the values that we have. It's our own unique North Star, a fascinating thing. And when we get into
Mhm.
that, all of a sudden we're like, oh, it makes sense. Like we might judge our behavior and you go in and it actually makes sense. That's the way I was in that moment.
Mm.
That's the way I was acting or behaving based on the circumstances and principles that were coming forward. I have a client, he loves business, loves the business that he owns, and it was really interesting because he's usually quite friendly with
Mhm.
his employees, and they have a great culture at the company, right? But then there's one particular employee that had a lot of foresight and a lot of warning self and managers to not do this one particular thing, and it cost the company a lot of money, and now he's struggling to ensure that he can hold on to other people's jobs. He wound up quitting, which is great, saved some
Mhm.
cash. But he's frustrated that his boss isn't being nice to him while you weren't listening. Now
Mhm.
you've impacted a significant quantity of individuals' lives, their livelihood. And it's so I don't really care how you feel right now. And that's the priority. And that's that component is we're gonna be super nice when something is being fulfilled that's important to us. And then all of a sudden, if you're not, we're gonna be really tough and really mean. But both sides are necessary. Also,
Mhm.
in that like dynamic, it's like humbling ourselves to know if we are that employee, oh my gosh, I did do something that is potentially causing like damage or injury to other people's jobs. What does that mean to me? Humble yourself enough to know maybe you're not the smartest person in the company. And there's a reason why we have teams. Like we have
Mhm.
teams so we can all keep track of each other, including that CEO, by the way. He has
Yeah.
teams,
Oh, yeah.
or she, in this case, he. It's like humbling ourselves. No, and that kind of dives into when we think about human behavior, the universal law component, right? There are things that we cannot deconstruct within the universe, right? There's things that we
Mhm.
cannot get rid of. We consistently try to get rid of conflict, yet there's no person on this planet that has ever been conflict free. Not one
Mhm.
person, not one person, not one organization, not one country. And so then it's the better question to ask if for the entirety of our human existence, we've never been able to get rid of it. What is the actual purpose that the universe is providing? Right? Why is it
Mhm.
actually there? When we go into the details of conflict, like what's really fun in relationships, which pay attention, you'll see this. Sometimes you're saying things that you've been holding back. Sometimes we don't even think about important things because we're so busy doing other stuff that all of a sudden it comes out in a conflict. And you
Mhm.
think sometimes, why was I not bringing this up before? And it's like, oh, I just didn't have the time. Thank goodness we
Mhm.
had this conflict, or it never would have come up. So it's really interesting when we see how conflict serves us on that smaller scale within our relationships, our business, our personal business with our friends. We can also start to see how it's serving on a larger scale and creating transformation. And then you realize why
Mhm.
it's never gone away because it
Mhm.
serves a purpose. And those are the universal laws. So when we combine our own life purpose and understand why we attract what we do, because if we're trying to go against what's just set in stone, like, it's really hard. That's
Yeah.
why that's why sometimes you're like, I feel like this is an unachievable goal, right? Sometimes it genuinely is an unachievable goal because it goes against the universal law of principle of all pleasure and no pain. There's no
Mhm.
goal that doesn't have both sides. So human behavior, when combined with all these different dynamics, really gives us an edge in life, right? It's actually
Mhm.
it's fun. It's really enjoyable. You can start predicting things. Like, my husband, he does the workshops and stuff with me as well, so we do some work together, but we'll predict things where we'll see, like, maybe a client disconnects, and I'll be like, "Watch what happens." I'll be like, "I guarantee." I was like, "I tried to get him to work on it, but I couldn't get him to work on it," and I was like, "If you connect with him first, see if you can get him to work on it, because I guarantee this is gonna happen." And then all of a sudden it happened. I profit. It's
Right.
just predictable based on these, like, mathematical equations within ourselves and with the universal laws.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I love the call out that to not judge whether a behavior is good or bad. Like, it just that I view the world as a series of unintended consequences and reactions. And so laying out that reaction chain of, like, told you not to do it, you did it. Now there's a lot of people impacted. Now I'm mad at you. Now you're mad at me for being mad at you. And that whole thing is an illustration of, like, maybe it was a risk and it would have been, if it worked out, would have been great for the company. But alas, it didn't work out. So yeah, I love that call out. I love there's a lot of information in there. So
There's
trying to get the hamster to catch
there's a
up
lot.
here.
You're not sorry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I heard that values are part of human behavior. I heard that prioritization is part of human behavior. And I heard you talk about purpose, right? Which are amazing. I love these topics. The podcast is called The Meaningful Revolution to help people find their purpose and inspire them to explore it. Could you maybe talk about how one can find their values or find their priorities? Because talking about clarity as a coach, this is all I do is find out what your priorities are and then find out how you're not talking in congruence with them. That's basically, if I had to boil down my work, hey, you say this, you're doing this, or you think this, like, where's the bridge here and from
Yeah.
different?
This is really beautiful because I was just working with an individual who it's obvious that she really values business, finances, solely based on the fact that if I look at what her life demonstrates, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we can tell what our life purpose is based on what it demonstrates. She's saving money. She lives in a place that she could afford a lot more, but instead she's putting it aside. She's looking at investment properties. She's looking at purchasing like a nice place to rent out while she lives in a one small bedroom in a shared space, right? Like she can totally
Mm-hmm.
afford to live there on her own. She's choosing not to. What is she showing me? She's showing me she's prioritizing finances, right? She's prioritizing building her wealth and creating
Mm-hmm.
financial independence, right? Then there's individuals who maybe spend money, right? So there could be someone who like I love fashion, you guys. 100 I've been reading Vogue magazine since I was 12 years old.
Nice.
And I've been a subscriber since that long, which is amazing. I look at all the photography and the fashion. I love it so much.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, do I prioritize finances? Yes. Did I go to Italy and set aside a significant quantity of money to shop? Absolutely.
Yeah.
No way. I'm not able to do that. Like straight up, I love shopping in Europe. So whenever
Yeah.
I'm like traveling, I'm like, okay, here's your travel budget and here's your shopping budget. So
Mm-hmm.
that my life demonstrates that that's actually genuinely important to me. It's not something that
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be able to stop doing. I could sit here and judge myself that I'm not saving as much money as her. But when I had tried that, I actually didn't feel as fulfilled. So my goal was,
Mm-hmm.
okay, how do I make more money so I could save more? It's asking the quality questions, see how you can increase your savings, how you can increase your investing if it's not important to you. Because
Mm-hmm.
some people I know wake up every day and they're going to prioritize spending money on their kids. And that's your top priority. And first, understand why you're doing what you're doing. And then we can find out different ways to create income off of it. Because even when you say it's like, how do you create income off of what you love?
Mm-hmm.
About 20 years ago, I realized not only did I love shopping, but I was really good at sales shopping. And I can buy really nice things on sale, wear it for a decade, sometimes 2 decades, and still sometimes sell it for more on eBay. That's
Mm-hmm.
a skill that I have. And so it's like, how can you make money doing what you love? Well, I love that. So when people look at me and they say, why would you pay them for something?
Yeah.
I'm not done with it yet. How do you create an income doing what you love? Now that's a small
Mm-hmm.
thing, trying to like do it in a better way so I can make more money.
Yeah.
But even your kids and stuff, it's like, how do you create an income spending time with your kids and doing what you love? And I have one client who they're really nurturing their kid. Their kid's about 8 years old and definitely knows what he wants to do in his life. And they're really pushing and nurturing him to create that opportunity. And if he carries forward, he will make money in the next couple
Mm-hmm.
years. And so even here's this mom who is like destined to be a mom, like taking care of this kid and investing that time, and she'll create a profit off of that. She creates a profit by helping manage that. And the same with the dad. And the dad, to get this business started, it's going to cost them cash, but the dad's been working on the back end to make so now he's a venture capital. He's doing venture capital for the
Yeah.
first time. He gets to do it with his son. So it's funny because like we really put these restrictions on ourselves because we're like, I can't do what I love and get paid, right? Like, what are you doing every day that lights you up, that
Yep.
feeds your soul, right? Things that you genuinely love. And where is there someone out there that actually wants that product or service? And how can you create something that could bring that together? One of my favorite stores in Canada that I go shopping at, I'm going to give them a shout out because they're awesome. Beaubelief, if you go to Vancouver, what also makes them so fun to go visit, it's a mom and two daughters. And so there's
Mm-hmm.
these 3 girls who love fashion, and you walk in and you just don't get this, like, cool store, but you have these 3 girls who they're talking to me about my trip to Italy, and they're like, "Did you go here? Did you go here?" Because 'Cause they're traveling around the world
Mm-hmm.
shopping for their clothing store. So they're being paid to shop with their family. They have a high priority on family, a high priority on business and finances, and a high priority on fashion, and they're getting paid for it all.
Yeah.
What do you love? And every day you're gonna see those bits and pieces, and it's like, where's their business there? Be
Yeah.
fun. So our life demonstrates our life purpose, and it's up to us to really like fuel it.
I would call it like living in authenticity. And when you're authentically living, you're living into your values and your purpose. And the fun thing about that is, like you were just saying, once you know what that is and you are operating out in the world, it's a problem solving exercise of like, how do I build and create my life around these things that are important to me to make it work for me? And having that intention and awareness is so important because if you just went to Italy without having, oh, I know that I'm going to go shopping and I'm just going to do whatever, you come back and you're like, I can't pay my bills for the next 5 years because I got all this cool, good stuff, and I love it, but, like, I went overboard. There wasn't an intention
Yeah.
or and it's inauthentic in trying to build wealth for you and your family in the future. So often, being authentic is being aware of the different areas holistically in our life that are important,
Yeah.
and then doing that problem solve, like, how do I build my life to make sure I'm taking care of all of it? Because it's like, I'm sure if you're like, "Oh, I don't, wanna build wealth anymore," but it is still important to you. That's when people feel depressed or feel anxious or you start feeling guilty about doing the things you love. So, yeah, I love that example of kind of pulling it all together. And in a lot of ways, that's what I hope the meaningful revolution is for everyone. My personal meaningful revolution is living in that authentic lifestyle.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm curious then, you started coaching, you work in a bunch of different areas in your business, clarity, mindset, and purpose. Could you do you have any ideas or tips for people on if you're like, I'm just out there living my life. I haven't ever really thought of why I do the things I do, why I find things fun or some things not. Like how to maybe organize and start getting a little bit more clarity on their purpose.
I think you hear a lot of people say, I don't know, I can't figure it out. You're usually not asking yourself questions.
Mm,
If you get to something where you say, I don't know, what's a different question I can ask myself right now to get a different answer? And you just keep
mhm,
asking yourself questions, you're eventually going to get the answer, like genuinely. Sometimes if I'm going through a challenge and I'm uncertain on what the root cause is, I will literally just sit on a walk. I'll be on a walk walking my dog, and my
mhm,
brain, it just keeps going question after question. Be like, that doesn't make sense. That's not logical. Question after
mhm,
question. Sometimes I'll WhatsApp my friends and we'll just talk things out loud. And I'm like, wait, I said this and I said this, and this doesn't make sense. When I tell you, like, there's a level of awareness you can pay attention to yourself to understand what's going on. It's just that we
mhm,
don't think that way. It's easier to be a victim of our circumstances. It's easier to say this is so and so's fault. This is one of the biggest lessons that I've ever learned. We cannot avoid anything. When we think we get rid of something, it's actually come forward in a new form. It's insane. Like you, and this was a really inspiring thing to go through. You could look at verbal criticism. Everyone, this is a great exercise to do. You could go for the first person who you ever knew verbally criticized you and how hard it was on you. Usually it's mom or dad or sibling or something. Then after they're out of your life, I want you to see where it came in. And then after that person's out of your life, where did it come in next?
mhm,
Next and next, all the way up until today. And you're going to look and you're going to be like, I was under the illusion that I could disconnect from this person and I got rid of it. And now I see that I didn't. And it's, oh my
mhm,
gosh, that's crazy. So part of understanding purpose is also seeing the gifts in your life. And what I love about personal development is when we see how things that we've gone through, those challenges, the things that you can't get rid of, which is verbal criticism, a great example. I know it's a common trigger for many people. But when we
mhm,
see we can't get rid of that, but how it serves us, then all of a sudden what happens is it no
mhm,
longer impacts us. We find the purpose it brings to our lives. So a great quality question to ask is even in a moment that you're getting verbally criticized, is like, how is it serving me right now? How is it serving me? Sometimes we're very full of pride. Sometimes we're very puffed up with ourselves, and someone comes in to criticize us because we're not meant to be above people. We're not meant to be below people,
mhm,
right? You're not actually meant to be superior, but you're also not meant to act inferior, right? You're just meant to be yourself. And the truth is, we're all equal. Anything that I see in someone else, I have in me, but any person I meet, has the same quality. A great example, I may have a home and a beautiful home, but remember, I prioritize and I have a higher value on finances. But when I went, I remember there's this really cool guy, Brian. He's homeless, but he's super cool, homeless guy in Santa Monica. But what he does is he coordinates with the local community, and he's a pillar and a leader within the homeless
Mm,
community. And so when he collects food and towels, whatever, like anything, money, he goes and then the community comes together and he splits it between everyone in the community. He technically could have a surplus, but he's a leader in that community and that's where he's a pillar, right? He does that to a greater degree than I am.
mhm,
Who's superior and who's inferior? I just have a different value system. I get paid for my services in monetary form, and he get paid in community.
mhm,
That's it. We have a different value. So when I'm coming out and I'm puffed up and I'm superior, I will attract a circumstance or circumstances to humble me to bring me back down to size. It's a lot of why we attract that verbal criticism. And when it
mhm,
impacts us, there's a level that we agree with. Right? So
mhm.
yeah, back in the day, I used to have really bad body dysmorphia, really bad. So it's significantly better now. And yeah, still working through
Good.
it because
Cool.
I'm aging, by the way. So for all of us who know about aging, I'm like, I was fine with this before. What's wrong now? And I was like, oh, you're aging, Carly. New body dysmorphia. Welcome to life. So it's been really fun to tackle. But there was a time where someone couldn't actually say to me, like if you said to me I was unattractive or I looked a little heavy in something, I would just break down. Like it would
Mm,
impact me so much because I was judging myself for my own appearance. When I stopped judging those parts of me, you could sit there and just you could look at me right now and be like, "You're fat, Carly." And I'd be like, "I'm a little chubby right now. That's what it is." And that's what I do. I'm like, whatever, it is what it is. Like that's life. Like it doesn't impact me. So remember too is when we're getting criticized and we're impacted by what they're saying, there's a level that we agree to a certain degree and we have guilt and shame for what they're sharing. So it's a
mm,
really beautiful kind of reflective component, right? So
mhm,
that's how we can dive in and see. So again, it's like, how is that serving us in that moment? Did it help us to use our voice? And then we can see the purpose of our life. When we start to dive into the purpose and priorities of us as unique individuals, again, this just goes straight back to what does your life demonstrate? What did you
mhm,
wake up and do this morning? How did you spend your morning? How did you spend your day? And what's actually important to you? And I can see that there's going to be things that you're procrastinating on, which means it's not as important to you. And whatever you replaced it with is so that's a
mhm,
cool thing to pay attention to because a lot of people judge themselves for procrastination. But if you're not doing it, you don't want to. There's
mhm,
nothing wrong with that. It's seeing why you don't want to do it. And sometimes we just get to drop it because we don't need it at all. You look and you're like,
mhm.
I don't even have to do this. Why am I even thinking I have to? Right. And we
Yeah.
drop it completely. Or again, there's other times where it's, no, this is actually necessary for my life or my business. What's an
Mhm,
alternative solution? And just a great example is I was just working with someone on marketing and they were holding back on marketing and they weren't doing digital marketing. And then when we look, person does not like digital marketing. Where is she an amazing marketer on live events? And I
yeah.
was like, you got a lot of live events planned. Where else can you do live events? Can you start marketing there and that be
Mhm.
your platform? And she's like, yeah, it makes you feel more relaxed. And I was like, of course it does. Because I'm not forcing you to live
Yeah.
outside your life purpose. So funny enough, sometimes we get so stuck thinking that this is what we should do or have to do.
Mhm.
We're not seeing the alternative solutions where we already have like mastery and genius. Oh, I don't need you to be a digital marketing. You're already a master in
Yeah.
marketing live. Let's get you live. And then she's
Mhm.
inspired by that. Okay, how you feeling about marketing now? She's like, I got it. I'm really lit up. I was like, okay, good.
Right on. So the question I have about you were just saying is maybe I'll state a belief. I believe that we choose our purpose. Like, our purpose doesn't just walk around and one day hit us upside the head and you're like, oh, I'm supposed to build this big fashion business. I'm supposed to be a musician. And saying that, I think I'll try to organize it. So we'll start with purpose. I also wanted to talk about motivation because there's a couple of points that you're talking about related to that. But so with procrastination, right? The equation I had in my head is if your purpose is strong enough, you'll do uncomfortable things. If your purpose in your marketing is strong enough, like I personally don't like social media myself, but I do some of it because I know that it serves my mission, helping get the word out, hopefully inspiring people to follow their hearts a bit more, get more clear on that. How do you react to, do you agree or disagree with the idea that you choose your purpose and that maybe the goal then is to make sure that is greater than the distractions, the things that you don't want to do, but maybe have to do? Because, like you said, sometimes our ego gets in the way of, I have to do this, but really, if it's just causing you more distraction from the main thing. So there's another question now. How do you decide what's something you have to do that's hard, you just don't want to do, but the purpose is big enough to pull you across that line versus something that is preventing you from charging ahead of? There's a lot I just threw in there.
Like, so yeah, when we think about like how our purpose is created, this is really interesting because technically, like, it is a choice, but then it's also a challenge, right? So if I think about the challenge that I went through as a kid to start to love fashion, it came from my biggest pain, my
Mhm.
biggest pains. And so I was the cute kid and I dressed cute and everyone would say it. All the family members say, Carly's so cute, Carly's so cute, right? And obviously there's my super ego getting built. And I'm like, this
Mhm.
is the best thing ever. Then all of a sudden, when I was about 12-ish, right, I started to gain a lot of weight, like a lot, and I became obese. And now
Mhm.
nobody's telling me I'm cute anymore. I wear the clothes that I used to wear anymore. And I'm like, and I'm feeling really disconnected. It's at the time when friends are starting to like talk about boys and stuff. Nobody's interested in me. So I'm just like,
Mhm.
now in my perception, this is what I was calling myself, the fat, ugly kid. Right. That's it. So that was a really big challenge. That's about the time I started looking at Vogue magazine. The
Mhm.
things that I don't read the magazine too often, really political. It used to be very political now, but back in the day when I would read it, the main thing I was reading as a kid, I would look at the fashion, I would look at the styling because I really wanted to see like how people put things together to look good,
Mhm.
their hair, their makeup, everything. But then I would also look at the specific components of the health. So when they would talk
Mhm.
about health, weight loss, or exercise, I remember being like, I wonder what they're saying. I wonder how they do it. So
Mhm.
now all of a sudden, because I'm in so much pain and feeling so much challenged by this loss of something that I perceived was necessary, right? That I'm
Mhm.
starting to build this value and trying to learn about health and wellness. And funny enough, shortly after, I did learn more about health and wellness. I started to exercise. I started to learn about dieting in the sense of like how to eat more appropriately, like what times of
Mhm.
day to eat, how to monitor my eating, how to not eat, was eating like 4 cheeseburgers at meal. So there's a reason I was what I was. But it's, oh, you only have one cheeseburger. Like you can't do that. And it's like all this stuff you're starting to learn. And so here I chose the route of health. That was the choice that I made. I could have
Mhm.
chosen anything in that moment, right?
Mhm.
That challenge could have spiraled me to maybe become more outgoing in school and maybe be like the class clown and have that speaking component and be
Mhm.
more engaged there. Push me to just study to a greater degree and hunker down and be like, I'm just going to do my own thing. I made the choice. We do make the choices, like part of our soul journey to
Mhm.
choose the fashion, the beauty, and the health component, which really is transition. Because back then, I guess this is where Vogue magazine gave me some good information. It was about health. It was if
Mhm.
you wanted to be beautiful, you better get healthy. And so now in
Mhm.
my brain, health is still important. Oh my gosh, it's so important. Like
Mhm.
one good luck thing. So it's really interesting
Cool.
to see how that formulates. But it would never have even happened if I didn't
Mhm.
have the challenge and the misperception of the pain of
Mhm.
feeling ugly and like rejected. So it's we have the pain, and then however we choose to formulate that into the purpose that we have in our life is the next step and what's like the most important and teaching. It's
Mhm.
beauty from the inside out. And the
Mhm.
better you feel on the inside, the better you look on the outside. Like you feel it. Like you walk by someone, I don't care what they look like. It doesn't matter what they look like. You could have any type of deformity. You're lit up on the inside. I want to talk to you. I want to connect
Mhm.
with you. I want to be around you. I'm magnetized to you. It's like we glow. And so it's
Mhm.
funny when I think about human behavior, of course it's something that I love. It's like beauty from the inside out by being authentic, being yourself, lighting up your
Mhm.
soul.
Yeah.
Everyone has this level of connection and perfection in their life. Everyone has this level of my life can follow A, B, C, D, E, F, G, like all the way up until today. And you can really unravel like the perfection of your experiences in your life, your decisions, your choices, your
Mhm.
perceptions to such a degree. And then you sit here today and you're like, oh my God, like everything makes sense. And that's also brings you a state of awe
Hmm.
into the magnificence of not just life in general, but our life, which makes you more grateful for your life. And when you're more grateful, you just attract more to be grateful for. So it's, yeah, when we think about that purpose and that creation, part of it is definitely understanding your biggest pains are the driver of the things that you actually love the most today. They're definitely the driver. And it's interesting because if you go back and you actually go through that detail, you'll be like, oh, I could have taken that a lot of different ways, but I chose this way. How
Yeah.
interesting is that? Yeah. And that's like us as unique human beings. Human beings are one of the most magnificent species on the planet. Genuinely so inspiring humans.
Infinitely unique and different. And yeah, so much to learn. So I wanted to get into the motivation part behind purpose, right? So something that I kept hearing throughout our conversation so far has maybe been this idea of the stories we tell ourselves and how that sometimes is a driver for motivation for change in your story. Like you had this idea of yourself, you had an idea that maybe you lost that, maybe there's backed by evidence of the number of cheeseburgers made or not. And then there was that pain drove motivation to be like, how do I change this? Get some new information in your life. You discover health is the way, and then away you go. I think that's a pretty common path of like, you believe something about yourself or you have a story about yourself, something comes in conflict with that, and then new action is taken. When it comes to human motivation and behavior, what are behaviors that people have to keep them motivated, driving that purpose forward in ways that are healthy and sustainable? You could go and work out and run for the next week straight, like Forrest Gump. It's going to be really bad on your body. You might have some malnutrition stuff. You might beat up all your joints. So maybe not the best idea, even though health is super important, not sustainable. So could you maybe talk about human behaviors in terms of sustainable motivation? That's
This is really cool. If you have a value on health and you truly value it, you're probably still going to go run and you're probably going to beat up your body. But then
hmm
on the back end, I know you're going to be researching a lot of stuff. You're probably the person who has a regular chiropractor. You might have a regular nutritionist. LeBron James spends
hmm
$1 million a year on his health. $1 million a year on his health. Why? Why would he do that? Is it necessary? Is he probably testing out some things that don't work and some things that do work?
hmm
For sure. We're just seeing someone who is investing in their health. So he doesn't want to stop running. He doesn't want to stop competing. So he's going
hmm
to find all the ways to tackle it and do the best that he possibly can. When something's important to you, you figure out how to sort it out.
Yeah.
You figure it
Yeah.
out. I love business and I love creating business, but I also love like exercising and stuff too. So I require more sleep. When people sometimes talk about, I only sleep 5 hours, I'm like, you clearly do not work out the way I do. And then when I tell them, they're like, no, no. And I tell them how much I work out and they're like, you need to get some sleep. And I'm like,
Yeah.
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 So I figure out how to structure my life in such a way that I can get that done, spend time with my family, work on my business, build great wealth, build finances, do all the things that I love. Am I magic? No, I just am focused on everything that's important to me. That's it. So if I know that it's important to me, I make sure to make it happen. It doesn't become a question of, will I wake up and do it? And why wouldn't I wake up and do it? Because if I
hmm
don't do it, I'm going to lose it. What is the cost of me not doing it? It's too valuable for me. So when we think about motivation, we need motivation for things that are not inspiring to us, right? I
hmm
require motivation for home repair stuff. I am not, it's not my cup of tea and I'm not allowed to do it anymore. My husband and I laugh. Everything that I've done, if you look around my office right now, it'd be hysterical. Sometimes I just want to show people damage caused of the simplest thing that you could have done on the planet. I'm not allowed to touch it anymore. It's all delegated, right? So if he's
hmm
not able to do it, like we're just delegating it. Well, Carly can't touch it. So it's such a low priority and such a low value that I
hmm
literally have like really messed things up doing when I say the simplest task possible, the simplest task. I just call it Home Depot. So it's really funny. I have no motivation to study it. I have no motivation to learn it. I have no inspiration to learn it. I don't wake up at all like studying any of those components. Where I have a client who is an architect and a builder, and every day he wakes up and loves it. Like,
hmm
he is my anti-particle. It's his life purpose, and he's like, "I can't imagine not reading a book." like about
Mhm.
like new technologies in construction. And I'm like, great. That just sounds like my nightmare, right? Where he can't
Yeah.
imagine reading the books that I read. So
Mhm.
it's like you are genuinely inspired and you pursue and you find the time for things that are truly important to you. And we're basically ignorant. We're pretty, it is. Sometimes we don't like to call ourselves stupid, incredibly stupid, ignorant, stupid, gullible, like in areas that we have no background, we don't care about, right? Like it's just not a
Mhm.
priority and a value. And that's cool because we can look at our lives and be like, where am I motivated? Where am I inspired? Where am I really organized, diligent? What can people rely on me for? And then when we look at it, it's got a common theme. And you're like, oh my gosh, those are all the things that like I enjoy doing the most. That's your
Mhm.
purpose. That's what you love. And everything else that you've been beating yourself up for trying to do are things that you don't love. And so
Mhm.
it's really getting deep into those questions to be like, okay, if I'm not motivated to do this, why? Why I want to move forward with. Now, here's the other key and why it's so important to know what your purpose is. I love health, wellness. We know that. I love teaching. I shared that with you, right? I also
Mhm.
love family. All that's like when we talk about my values, my business, my family, like my health and wellness, and building wealth, like those are all my priorities. That's my life just around. Like I'm just surrounded by that. That's what
Mhm.
I've created for myself. If I don't want to do something, and it's actually quite necessary, right? Which sometimes
Mhm.
it is. Probably more so I'm gonna have to do this more when I have kids, I think.
Yeah.
Especially if I have a kid who's into sports. They're gonna make me get up at 4 in the morning. I mean, I know sports parents, and I'm like, "Oh, I don't wanna do that," but I
Yeah.
wanna help my kids pursue it. So, I will
Mhm.
help there, and I'll do all the benefits over and over it again to my
Mhm.
teaching, to my business, to my health. It's easy to see to my family if it's my kid. If I had to get up at 4 in the morning and I had to do that
Mhm.
Monday through Friday, I wanna make sure that they get that opportunity, and I'll do that until I see so many links that now there's a greater why, right? Now I have a purpose for it. And I like to do it until I get a tear of inspiration, a tear of
Mhm.
gratitude for being like, man, I did not see the possibility of driving my kids to their sports classes at 4 in the morning. And once you
Mhm.
see it, you're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Like, I didn't see
Mhm.
it. It's there. I just didn't see it. So if there's something that it's necessary for you to do, which I know we all have that out there, if you break it down and you're like, is this genuinely necessary? Which sometimes is saving money and investing, right?
Mhm.
You could ask yourself this question. This is how I increase my value on being able to save. How does saving, just saving, not spending it, not
Yeah.
saving it to spend later, but
Yeah.
only saving it,
Mhm.
serve me in my life purpose? And what the greatest gift, which I even see today, is the level of comfort you have when you have security blankets and cushions. I don't want to pull
Mhm.
from it. And like, there's a savings account that I don't want to touch and it just sits there, but I know that it's there and it makes me feel safer to take risks. It makes me
Mhm.
feel safer to just, it's just like safer in general. If something happens in the world, I'm like, I still have some cash, right? I have all that liquidity.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And that's one of the greatest opportunities it gives you. And then also when I'm talking to clients who, are doing quite well financially, I feel wealthy because I have all this wealth behind me. And it doesn't
Mhm.
matter how much it is, how it makes you feel.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say we don't ask that question. So we'll be like, why should I put money away? Why do I need to save? That's why we're not saving. So if you keep
Mhm.
asking those questions, and I use money in an example, feel financially secure, it helps us feel more
Yeah.
comfortable and stable and less stressed out. This is the one thing that I'm like, I know it might not be your life purpose, but try to bump it up. Our world market. What do I prioritize? And if it's learning and reading and education, it's like how does saving serve that? If it's my kids, how does saving serve that? If it's fashion, how does saving serve that? But not to spend it, or else you'll save it and spend it. It can't be
Yeah.
to spend it, just to watch it grow. Yeah.
Right on. Awesome.
Uh,
I could tell that you're really geeking out on some personal finance stuff. You probably
Yeah,
do.
I
Yeah.
it's fun. And it's really fun too. I think is when I started to learn how much it was involved in like human behavior. There's a lot of fun books, like the market crash books and stuff, like where the Lehman Brothers book is really fun because it's more about the personal development and like human behavior side of
Mhm.
it and why the business failed. And we get to see where we got really puffed up and it's like you're just walking around, you're the shit basically, and you can do whatever you want. And then all of a sudden here comes the universe to remind you, I don't think so, my friend. That's not how life
Yeah.
works. And you see where people like get lackadaisical and they
Mhm.
just stop putting in implements like processes and procedures. Test of time, by the way. like in
Mhm.
business and with people and hiring just because they're doing so well. Like when we do so well, we get complacent, we get really proud and high in a sense. And that's when
Mhm.
we start to get humbled. So yeah, so business and finances, it's not just finances. When I
Mhm.
started to do the links, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much more to it than I ever had understood. And now I love reading business books and I love reading finance books. Like I love it so much. And it just shows us psychology, like
Mhm.
good. So if you love psychology, business and finance book, they got it in there.
I'm a
Oh yeah.
big business nerd myself. What are some behaviors or tips you could give people to maybe change their own behaviors to help them excel? As a high performance
Yeah.
coach, I'm not concerned about just getting by. I want people to thrive. I want people to, reach that level of excellence or mastery in whatever they're doing. Do you have any idea of maybe some common behaviors you've identified that really help people live
Yeah.
into that greatness or great life?
Yeah, and I think it's funny because it's like the name of the podcast, like some stuff, it's a meaningful, right? We want
Mhm.
life to be meaningful because then we feel more fulfilled and inspired. So
Yeah.
literally, the best tool is to make your life meaningful by filling it with meaningful. So I do like to schedule out my days. I really like scheduling them out because I want to make sure that every day is filled with something that's meaningful to me,
Mhm.
genuinely meaningful. Now, not to say you're not going to hit road bumps and do all this other stuff. So today's my aunt day, which is what it is. Just is what it is. It's a real special time. Funny is I can go back and see I might have been able to actually curb it had I stopped something else. But I know I really want to finish this. Like I was applying for
Mhm.
podcasts and doing some post stuff and like business
Mhm.
stuff. Maybe it'll be fine. So I take the risk and I'm like, maybe it'll be fine. And it wasn't fine. I plan my day every day to do things that inspire me, but also I just want to be clear. Sometimes things come up. Sometimes
Mhm.
things come up. If
Yeah.
I could have delegated this, I would have. I don't live in LA anymore. I live in a smaller town. It's very hard to delegate here. So if I
Mhm.
did delegate, it would take at least a couple days to up to a week. And by that time, my whole house would be filled with, right? But if
Mhm.
I was in LA, I probably would have significantly larger resources to delegate in the moment. And it's something I
Mhm.
would delegate, right? So it's paying attention to that too, because I know depending on where you live and the resources you have access to, this changes it. So this is one of those crazy days. Otherwise, I have a specific plan for this day to do exactly what I would love to do. Now, I'm still going to do all the things that I love. I'm going to look at my list, which I already have, and I'm going to say,
Mhm.
out of all the things that I would love to do today, and I have the list of things that I would love to do and meant to do that would serve my business and my
Mhm.
finances, my life, which ones are the highest priority? Because I hit a little bit of a speed bump, right? And I'll
Mhm.
make sure now for the rest of the week, I'll go through my little calendar schedule. I like to use things. My husband likes a handwritten journal. Some people just like Apple Calendar. Some
Mhm.
people, everyone does something different. Do whatever is the
Yeah.
easiest for you that you're going to open it. Whatever's going to make you open it. So I'll go through mine and I'll adjust for the next couple days to see like how I can make sure all these other things will be fit in. But I'm very organized in my schedule and I'm very organized in my life because then I ensure that it happens. I know that it's
Mhm.
gonna do it. I know that it's gonna be there, and I cannot stress this enough. Even when I'm working, no matter who I'm working with, if I don't get on the phone with them and they don't seem lit up by their life, then we're
Mhm.
gonna sit there and we're gonna make sure that you're making time for the things that light you up, and we're gonna start doing that process. I was just telling you guys, linking it to see how it serves your purpose on the things that they're having to do that they can't get rid of yet. It's like, let's see how that serves you. I can tell you the ants today. I was it's funny because after I did, I was like, "Perfect. I really want to listen to that audiobook," and I finished it. I was like, "Yes." So I
Mhm.
was doing I still
Mhm.
got what I wanted. Next, I'm calling my husband, and he was like, "I really want to call him." So all of it still, if I can see how it's on the way, can you see I'm not frustrated? I'm not upset by it. I'm not feeling
Yeah.
burdened. I didn't get to do my gym class this morning, but you're still getting exercise because you got to rub everything down. I was like,
Mhm.
okay, cool. So I'm still getting everything. If I see how it benefits me, then I don't
Mhm.
sit here bitter for my life. I'm seeing I'm getting everything I wanted, even with this certain dynamic. That's amazing. Because that's what we can do with our life. Life throws you curveball left and right. Prioritize your day, prioritize the crap out of it. Make sure
Mhm.
everything is scheduled that you would love to do in the life that you would love to live. And then outside of that, when stuff happens, ask how it served you. So then I'm not sitting
Mhm.
here like, today sucked. I'm so mad. I still got my learning. I still got my education. I still got my exercise in. I'm still getting all the stuff that I want. So what do I have to complain about? I have a life to be grateful for. So this is
Hmm.
where that perceptual shift comes in as well. And when we think about our life too, is 'cause sometimes you'll be like, Carly, like, I have to go to work and I don't like my job, or I have to do this and I don't
Hmm.
like that. We've gone over that. Rewind. I told you how to sort that one out.
Yeah.
Ask yourself how it serves you. I showed you how I
Hmm.
did it with my little fun ant problem. Ask how it serves you. Ask how it benefits you. Also, we can tack on. Great. I got to
Hmm.
use it as a lesson. How awesome is that? And so now it's, whoa, what an inspiring day I had, as opposed to, oh, I couldn't do anything I wanted. So prioritize your day the way that you would love. If there's things in there that you can't get rid of, go ask how it serves you until you see that you're really grateful to be there. And sometimes it's going to take longer than other times. A lot of stuff is a bit faster for me, but only because I do it all the time. In the
Right.
beginning, it might take a little bit more time. And then the more that you practice this, the more that you'll actually see, hey, there's a lot, like it'll come faster. It'll
Hmm.
start to come like naturally where you'll feel annoyed and then immediately you'll see something that you didn't see of how like you're gaining from it. And that's really important. And the stronger that you dislike something, the more you'll require those benefits to
Yeah.
see how it serves you, because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just a mathematical equation. If I only have a
Hmm.
couple of drawbacks, I only probably need a couple benefits. But if I have like million drawbacks, like I'm gonna need a lot more benefits. It's gonna take more
Yeah.
time. So it's funny to sit down and see sometimes where I'm like, this one's taking me a lot. I was clearly a lot more perceptually triggered than I thought I was. And I
Right
have a good
on.
laugh. I was like really sliding one way on this one.
Right on. I love the idea of being flexible. So I'm a person that likes to plan things out, and then I also hate structure. So I like to be able to react to things. It really does speak to me that, okay, my day's not going to go the way that I want it to, but here are the ways I can still accomplish those broad stroked goals that I have that'll help push me forward. And that flexibility of being able to adapt, I think, is a hallmark of success, a hallmark of keeping things moving forward. That's how I'm internalizing that. You're shaking your head. People listening can't see you shaking your head, yes, but yeah, so yeah, we're aligned. With that said, I think we're at the end of our time. How can the good folks at home or in their car or working out right now reach you? And I'll put that in the show notes so you don't have to spell out URLs or anything. But what's the best way
Awesome.
for people to reach you?
Just my website, which is my name, carlypepin.com. And yeah, all the info to contact me directly.
So yeah, definitely check out Carly's website down in the show notes below. Carly, it's been so much fun talking with you today. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been great.
Uh, so with that, we'll see you guys next time on the Meaningful Revolution podcast.